Coming up, nearly halfway through 2021 and Brexiteers still don't seem to know what they voted for. Headlines like this one in the Daily Express keep the pretense going that Brexit has only been a failure because of a vindictive European Union. What the Express refers to here as punitive Brexit red tape is actually a fundamental EU regulation that allows visitors from any third country, such as post-Brexit Britain, to remain for only 90 days out of a 180-day period. It's one of the main reasons why Remainers voted to stay in the EU, because they were all too aware that this freedom of movement restriction would apply to British passport holders post-Brexit. Before we get into it, please remember to like, subscribe and get notified of new videos every Wednesday and Saturday. So, post-Brexit talks over access to Norwegian seas have collapsed, spelling the end of the UK's distant water fishing industry after hundreds of years. Let's be clear about this, the fishing industry. The poster boy of Brexit. The industry that was put on a pedestal as the shining example of what taking back control would look like. It's lost its EU negotiated rights to fish in Norwegian waters, and the industry has just collapsed. Far from benefiting from any post-Brexit freedom, along with the shellfish industry, it's become yet another victim of the biggest scam ever perpetrated on the British electorate. In 2016, Leave voters were assured by Boris Johnson and Michael Gove that after Brexit, the UK could have its cake and eat it. That we would still be able to trade freely with the EU, yet be free of all the EU rules and regulations. This was a lie. The clue was in the names Boris Johnson and Michael Gove. Unfortunately, a sizable proportion of the electorate believed those lies, which swayed them to vote Leave. James O'Brien often talks about contempt for the Conmen and compassion for the conned. And I really do try to find some compassion for them. I really do. And in that spirit, I'd like to say that those people at this stage have a perfect right to blame Johnson and his government for failing to deliver on their promises of a have your cake and eat it Brexit. The trouble is, the conned are still being lied to by the conmen, such as the government, the Daily Express, the Daily Fail and the Telegraph. And rather than blaming Wurzel Johnson and his cabinet of the corrupt and incompetent, many of the conned, the Leave voters, are being encouraged to blame the EU instead. This kicked into overdrive on 1st of January 2021 when UK exporters and importers were swamped with bureaucracy, needing up to 97 separate forms to be filled in and certified for consignments that previously only needed one, and dealing with new customs charges and massive administration delays. Number 10 claimed that these were teething problems. But here we are, about halfway into 2021, and the problems are still there. Apart from distant water fishing and the shellfish industry, there are plenty of other examples of small and medium-scale British businesses that have had to suspend trading with Europe, and also continental businesses who can no longer trade profitably with the UK and have had to cease exports to would-be British customers. The overall impact on business earnings and employment on both sides of the channel is significant. The Brexit mantra of "you lost, get over it" displays a stultifying ignorance. The truth is, we all lost. Leavers and Remainers. The British and the Europeans. There are no winners, apart from the wealthy offshore Brexiteer disaster capitalists who cashed in on the original fall in the pound, acquired their EU family passports and moved their factories and assets overseas to Singapore, France, Ireland, or to whichever country their sleazy connections granted them access. I run a successful actors agency in London, and Brexit has hit us through our actors losing work in many English-speaking theatres throughout Europe and lost opportunities on English-speaking movies shot by Hollywood and other major studios and generally produced in the less costly Eastern EU countries. There are 40 actors on my books, and I reckon Brexit has cost them and my business about £100,000 in income each year. The experience has confirmed my worst fears about Brexit being a disastrous mistake, and a particularly dishonest one given the government's betrayal of its promises that brought so many of those Leave supporters on board. The Tories are now using COVID-19 and the resulting social restrictions as a cover for the economic and social damage caused by their pathetic, unscrutinised and hastily ratified Brexit deal. But the deceit and dishonesty is being exposed as the Northern Ireland situation continues to simmer. As part of the Tory hard Brexit, there has to be a border between the EU and Britain. But the Tories are on the one hand saying there is and there isn't a border in the Irish Sea, and that there is and there isn't a land border between Ulster and the Irish Republic. The Tories' idea of the border is like a cross between Schrodinger's cat and Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, where the Irish border both exists and doesn't exist in two different places at once, one for the particle physicist there. But unless we find an innovative solution, at some point we're going to have to take the lid off the box and see if the cat is alive or dead in the Irish Sea or on the island of Ireland, with each alternative bound to lead to an outcry, or even worse, from those opposed. It looks to me like the only practical alternative is for the UK government and the EU to reach an immediate agreement to return to the temporary trading conditions agreed for the Brexit transition period up to the 31st of December 2020, while they negotiate a truly frictionless Brexit deal to ensure free trade and freedom of movement across the whole of Europe and the UK. Yes, I'm talking about rolling back all the lies, deceit and dishonesty and returning the whole of the UK to the single market and the customs union. And yes, as I'm sure many of my regular European viewers will point out in the comments below, the real question is not whether that is the right thing for the UK to do, but whether the European Union would ever seriously consider allowing Boris Johnson's United Kingdom back into these arrangements.